My name is Vesic. I am an engineer. For 11 years I worked on one problem, and for 11 years I failed. This is the story of how that problem was solved, and who solved it. I live on a planet called Ashvareth. We are not human. We look a little different, and we think a little differently too. But we build machines, just like humans do. We build reactors, ships, and cities that float in the sky. Our king is proud of what we have built. But there was one machine that made him unhappy every single day. That machine was the royal reactor. The royal reactor sits deep under the king's palace. It gives power to our entire capital city. Ships, lights, water systems, everything runs on the power from that reactor. But there was a problem. The reactor never worked at full strength. It only ran at 40% of its true power. No matter what we tried, we could not fix it. I was the lead engineer on this project. I had a whole team under me. We had the smartest minds in the kingdom. We had years of training, big machines to run tests, and endless time to think. And still, we failed. Every year, I gave a report to the king, and every year, I had to say the same sad words. We have not solved it yet. You might ask, why was it so hard? Let me explain simply. Inside the reactor, there are two systems working together. One system controls the cooling. The other system controls the containment field, which keeps the power safe and stable. These two systems are supposed to work as a team, but instead, they were fighting each other. Every time we fixed one system, the other system would break in a new way. It felt like trying to balance a stick on one finger, while someone kept pushing the other end. We tried everything. We built new models. We ran thousands of tests. We even brought in engineers from faraway kingdoms to give us advice. Nothing worked. After 11 years, some of my team members had grown old and tired. One had even left the job completely, saying his mind could not take any more failure. I understood him completely. Some nights, I stayed awake staring at numbers on a screen, wondering if this problem could ever be solved at all. Then, everything changed on a normal Tuesday. Our king had recently allowed workers from Earth to come and help in our kingdom. Humans were new to us. They were small, soft, and moved in a funny way compared to us. Most of them worked simple jobs, like cleaning, cooking, or building small repairs. Nobody expected them to understand our advanced machines. Why would they? Our reactors were far more complex than anything they had built on their home planet, or so we believed. One of these humans was named Dale. He worked as a cleaner in our engineering building. Every morning, he pushed his cleaning cart down the same hallway, humming a soft tune that had no clear beginning or end. He always said a simple, "Good morning," to anyone who looked his way, and then he continued his work without another word. I barely noticed him. Why would I? I had a reactor to fix, and a king waiting for answers. That Tuesday, my team and I were running another test. This was simulation number 4412. Yes, we counted every single one. My assistant, Pell, had the results showing on our big screen. The same broken pattern appeared again, the same twisted line that never smoothed out no matter what numbers we changed. I remember feeling tired that day, not just physically tired, but tired in my heart. I was preparing to write another report to the king, explaining another year of failure. At that moment, Dale was cleaning near the back of the room. His cart made a small, squeaky sound as he pushed it. I found it slightly annoying, but I said nothing. Then, suddenly, the squeaky sound stopped. I turned around and saw Dale standing still, staring at our screen. He looked at it the way someone looks at a puzzle in a newspaper. Not worried, just curious. Then he said something that changed everything. "You have that backwards," he said calmly. I almost laughed, not because I wanted to be rude, but because it seemed impossible. A cleaner, correcting 11 years of research? I turned to him and said, "Please continue your work." But he did not move. Instead, he pointed at the screen and said, "That looks like a matching problem. You're trying to fix one part at a time, right? But look at this line. It jumps every time you correct it. That means you're not looking at one broken thing. You're looking at two things fighting each other." Pell looked at me nervously, unsure what to do. I should have asked him to leave, but something about the calm way Dale spoke made me pause. I decided to listen for one more moment. Dale continued, still looking at the screen. "You have two systems here, right? One controls temperature, and one controls the field around the core. Every time you fix one, it pushes the other one off balance, so the fixing never really finishes. It just keeps moving the problem around. I felt my hands grow cold. We already studied the cooling system's effect years ago, I said. We accounted for it. Sure, Dale said. But you treated it like background noise, like something small you needed to ignore. But it's not noise, it's a second voice, just as strong as the first one. You need to balance both systems together, not one after another. He paused, then added, almost as an afterthought, back on Earth, I used to fix heating systems in old apartment buildings. Sometimes two systems would fight the exact same way, same idea, just bigger and shinier here. Then he picked his mop back up and continued cleaning, as if nothing important had happened. I stood frozen. 11 years of failure, 11 years of pressure from the king, 11 years of watching my best engineers grow tired and discouraged, and in less than 5 minutes, a man who cleans floors for a living had pointed at the exact flaw we had missed the entire time. Wait, I said, my voice shaking slightly. Please, show me again. Slowly this time. Dale sighed, the way someone sighs when they are being pulled away from lunch, but he returned to the screen. For the next several minutes, he explained the idea in the simplest words possible. He used his hands to draw shapes in the air. He said things like, basically, and kind of like, more times than I could count. But somehow, it made perfect sense. Pell recorded every word. I wrote as fast as I could, my hands shaking with excitement, instead of tiredness, for the first time in years. That night, we built a new model, using Dale's idea. We adjusted both systems together, instead of one after another. We ran the simulation, the same harsh, unforgiving simulation that had broken so many hopes before. The twisted line on the screen, the one that had haunted me for 11 years, began to smooth out. Slowly, gently, it became a clean, steady curve. No sudden jumps, no fighting between systems, just balance. I sat there in silence with Pell beside me. Neither of us spoke for a long time. There was nothing proud to say. We had been outsmarted, not by a rival kingdom, not by a smarter species with better tools, but by a man who fixed heating systems for regular people, using the same basic idea to solve one of the most advanced problems in our kingdom. 2 days later, the king called Dale to the palace. I stood there in my formal robes, ready to explain everything. For years, I had walked into that same room to admit failure. This time, I was there to explain success, and admit that it did not come from me. Dale walked in wearing simple clothes, slightly smelling of cleaning soap. He looked a little nervous, standing before the king's throne, but he did not look scared. The king looked at him for a long moment before speaking. You solved in minutes what my finest engineers could not solve in 11 years, he said. Dale scratched the back of his neck, a very human habit I had noticed before. It wasn't that hard once I looked at it the right way, he said. I think you just needed someone who wasn't stuck inside the problem. Sometimes when you stare at something for too long, you stop seeing what it's actually doing. The king turned to me. Vesik, is this true? I thought about all those years. The sleepless nights, the tired team, the endless reports of failure. I thought about how simple the fix had turned out to be, once someone looked at it with fresh eyes. Yes, Your Majesty, I said. It is true. And it is the most humbling thing I have ever experienced, but also the most helpful. The king smiled and offered Dale a new position, head advisor to the engineering team. Dale thought for a moment, then asked if he could keep his cleaning cart too, just for old time's sake, along with a small increase in pay. The king laughed and agreed to both. From that day forward, Dale worked 2 jobs in our building. In the morning, he cleaned the halls, humming his soft, tuneless song. In the afternoon, he sat with engineers, offering simple, clear advice that somehow solved problems faster than years of complicated research ever could. I learned something important from this experience. It is easy to believe that big problems need big, complicated answers. It is easy to believe that only years of study can solve difficult mysteries. But sometimes, the answer is simple. Sometimes, all it takes is someone with a fresh mind, someone who has not spent years trapped inside the same way of thinking. I do not fully understand humans, even now. I have read about their history. It is full of struggle, mistakes, and slow progress, followed by sudden bursts of brilliant ideas. But I understand one thing clearly now. Humans do not always bow down to a hard problem just because it looks difficult. They do not treat failure as proof that something cannot be solved. They simply look at the problem clearly, without fear, and try their best idea. Sometimes, that is truly all it takes. After that day, our reactor ran at full strength for the first time in the history of our kingdom. Ships could travel farther, lights in the city shined brighter, families no longer worried about losing power during cold nights. All of this happened because one cleaner looked at a screen for 5 minutes and saw something the rest of us had missed for 11 years. Whenever new engineers join my team now, I tell them this story. I tell them not to be so proud that they forget to ask simple questions. I tell them that wisdom does not always come from the most trained mind in the room. Sometimes, it comes from someone who simply looks at things a little differently. And every morning, when I hear a soft, squeaky sound coming down the hallway, followed by a cheerful, "Good morning," I remember to stay humble, and to always keep my mind open to new ideas, no matter where they come from. That is the story of how the king's greatest engineers failed for years, and a human cleaner solved it in minutes. It taught me that intelligence is not only about knowledge. Sometimes, it is about seeing clearly, thinking simply, and never being afraid to speak up, even if you are just a cleaner pushing a cart down a quiet hallway.